Hey guys, today I want to talk about Shanghai and the tournament that has unfolded. It is a Masters 1000 tournament, of course, but a lot of the players that I think a lot of us expected to go deep into the tournament have actually lost. Before the quarterfinals, there's only one top 15 seed in the quarterfinals, that is Andrei Rublev. As I make this video, the final is going to happen tomorrow. That's between Andrei Rublev and Hubert Hurkacz. They are the two highest seeds that made it to the quarterfinals. Hurkacz, the 16th seed, and Rublev is the 5th seed. But yeah, very surprising tournament, so I want to talk about that and quickly talk about some other things going on this week as well, such as there are 3 women's tournaments going on this week, and look over some of that. I myself haven't had a huge chance to follow some of the women's tournaments this week, so I'd like to kind of look over the draw and think about kind of what some runs for certain players mean for their years, for their careers, and how those tournaments unfolded. And then also talk about upcoming tournaments, other stuff. But mainly, I want to have the focus be on Shanghai. But yeah, thank you guys for joining in for another From Lawns to Arenas Tennis podcast. My name is Anthony Hirsch, and welcome to the tennis commentary booth. So Rublev could get his second Masters 1000. He had his first Masters 1000 in April in Monte Carlo. And that one came on clay. This could be his first hardcourt Masters 1000. It's his 4th Masters 1000 final. He lost his first 2. If he wins the final, he's won 2 in a row. But we'll see. He has a good percentage, Rublev does, in finals. I can tell you exactly what it is, but it's very high. It's very high, and there's a crazy stat in there that I think a lot of people don't know. There's a crazy stat about the Andrei Rublev finals that I think a lot of people don't know, and I'll feed it to you now. So basically, let me see. Between from between July 2019 in Hamburg to April 2020, here it is. From July 2019 in Hamburg to June 2021, 2 years in Halle, Rublev did not lose a single final outside of Masters finals. That's a 2-year run where Rublev did not lose a single final. He won 7 tournaments. Rublev won 7 tournaments. So that's a crazy run from Rublev. Rublev, in general, really good in finals. This is his 23rd final. He's won 14 titles. 14 out of 23 is very good win percentage. Very good win percentage. He's yet to win a grass court title, I believe. Yeah, no grass court titles so far, but his win percentage across all 3 surfaces is very, very close. He has 9 hardcourt titles, 5 clay titles. And Hubert Hurkacz is underrated. Very underrated. I think he's now reached at least the quarterfinals of 8 of the 9 Masters tournaments, which is really rare, because that covers clay, it covers hardcourts, and it covers a whole season. First of all, the last Shanghai that was held was in 2019, so it's hard maybe for some players to get that stat, but still, it's a great stat for Hubert Hurkacz. So right now, we probably have 2 pretty underrated players going at it in the final. Like I said, they were the highest seeds left starting from the quarterfinals. And yeah, the quarterfinals, really, really exciting to me. I know it's not the names that you would usually see in tournaments like Spaniard, Carlos Alcaraz, who lights up arenas, or Djokovic, or whatever else. It's not names that people who don't closely follow tennis will quickly be, okay, there's Medvedev, there's Djokovic. But it's exciting for me because these are players who I feel have underperformed. These are players who I feel like have underperformed this year and haven't gotten the results or titles that they deserve, or big runs at big events that they deserve. So, like Grigor Dimitrov. Before this week, I think he's 38-18 on the season. I believe that's right. I can look up the exact number. But Dimitrov has a crazy win percentage on the season, only losing to top guys, playing really great tennis across all 3 surfaces. I noticed it first against, I believe, Jan-Lennard Struff, another guy who's having a good season. I hope he comes back healthy. But against Jan-Lennard Struff, I believe that was in Miami. Look it up real quick here. But I believe it was Struff taking on Dimitrov in Miami. Yes, in Miami. And Struff was 2 points away from winning it, 5-5 in the second set tiebreaker. Then Dimitrov has I think 5-3 even, he might have been leading. He was up in the tiebreaker. And then Dimitrov comes back, wins the breaker, and wins the match. A close, great match. But I noticed that then Dimitrov is playing really, really well. And I knew Struff was going to climb after that one too. But okay, I was a little bit overzealous, but 31-18 on the season is Dimitrov, which is really, really good. Really, really good from Grigor. Sometimes he can have like mental lapses. He reverts to slices. He starts hitting errors. Against some of the bigger hitters, top guys, he can sometimes struggle, feel like he's pushed back and not, I don't know. It seems like he can't hit with that same oomph and kind of depth and kind of pace that some of those guys can hit when he faces against them. But look, he's one of the most talented players on the tour, and he is a complete player. When he's hitting over that backhand, his game looks great, and it's exciting to see him do well. It was exciting to see him beat Alcaraz earlier in the week. He probably has the best win of the week, taking out the top seed. From down a set as well. He was serving for the first set, lost the set, but then regrouped and only lost 6 games in the next 2 sets. So that was kind of Dimitrov's run. But yeah, I was happy to see Grigor winning. Grigor, great longevity on the tour. He has the longest active streak of Grand Slam appearances. He's been in every single Grand Slam since the first Grand Slam he entered into in Australian Open 2011. That was the first one. 51 consecutive Grand Slam appearances. He had a wild card at the 2009 Wimbledon, but 51 consecutive Grand Slam appearances. And Dimitrov, just always so fun to watch and always looking great. Great competitor as well and great personality. So it's hard not to like Dimitrov, and especially after the video that Tennis TV posted where he's like pranking all the players, and it's hilarious. So that's something. And then he beat Jarry in the quarterfinals. And Nicolas Jarry started out the season crazy. Chile Open, won that one on the clay in his hometown. His grandfather also watching on, who's also a pro player. It's a whole family affair. He won the Chile Open on the clay from down a set, winning second set tiebreakers, then winning the match from down a set. Some great tight wins in that event, and that showed me, wow, he is really playing a high level. That came after he also got close to beating Alcaraz. It was, I think, 7-5 and 5-5 in the second set. Alcaraz would go on to win, I think, 8 straight games to win the match, but Jarry has been playing great all season, top 20 level all season, so I hope he breaks through to the top 20 by the end of the season, because he does deserve it. Another great match against Alcaraz at Wimbledon, by the way, which Alcaraz would eventually go on to win, but he was up 3-0 in the 4th set, looked all the way it was going 5 sets. Alcaraz did what Alcaraz does. But yeah, Jarry's been great, big hitter, big server. His biggest weapon, though, is his amazing mentality where he just always fights. And then Hugo Humbert, and by the way, Jarry also has had multiple difficulties throughout his season. He stopped playing tennis, I think professional tennis, for a couple of years. So shout out Jarry. Hopefully he has some more good runs in him. But yeah, Hugo Humbert as well. This is a guy who is super talented and very flashy, complete player. I even like his passion for the game, his mentality sometimes, but just hasn't been able to put it together. This year, he's been able to put it together, but he had so many close, tight losses to start the year. It's ridiculous. Almost every other week. He won a few challengers, a few 175 challengers, the new kind of higher level challenger they've introduced, but he's a guy that's never talked about. He's pretty much the same age as Ruud, Tsitsipas. I think he's slightly older, but he's one of these younger guys, and hopefully he can. The mental side, like Dimitrov, is one of those where that can let him down sometimes, I think. But listen, he was playing great this week. Just Rublev played unbelievable. Humbert didn't play bad in his match against Rublev. Rublev just redlined 6-2, 6-3. And then, Marajan, who I believe he beat Demonor this week. He also beat somebody else this week. I'll tell you I'll tell you Marajan's run. Shanghai's been exciting. I mean, we've had multiple third set tiebreak matches. Shelton beat Sinner in a third set breaker. Hurkacz beat Zhang in a third set breaker. Marajan Ruud went 6-4 in the third set. Schwartzman beat Fritz in the third set tiebreak. There's been a lot of stuff going on. By the way, shout out Schwartzman because he played the best match he's played since at least the U.S. Open last year and probably far before that. Probably on the clay swing last year in Shanghai, which you didn't expect on a faster court, but last week he played a good match against Zverev, so it wasn't completely unexpected. But yeah, a win over Demon. Let's see, is that what it is? Over Demonor, then Lajovic, then Casper Ruud, which was his second top 10 win of the season after his famous victory that he had in Rome. But yeah, Marajan's playing great. Hopefully he keeps that up. Hurkacz did well to beat him from down a set. And yeah, Hurkacz is in there. I spoke a bit about Hurkacz. But I can speak more about Hurkacz. I think this is a guy that people completely like to underestimate because his game doesn't always look too pretty. His forehand, the forehand is a shot that, yeah, it should look flashy. It should look like it's coming off strong. And yeah, sometimes it does look like it can be broken down easy. Sometimes he does hit very kind of weak shots, and that isn't a huge threat against top players. But still, all that said, this is a guy whose serve is so consistently tough and pretty much impossible to return when he's at his best. And this is a guy who can hit just amazing volleys and come to net. That's why he does so well in doubles. Great hand skills. And this is a guy who's hit a crazy tweener earlier this year on the indoor hard courts. Has hit multiple kind of crazy between the leg shots in his career. This is a guy who's talented. This is a guy who's a great competitor. You never see Hurkacz not looking completely focused on the match. Hurkacz is one of these guys that just fights and fights. And he's fearless. The guy's fearless. And he feels like he belongs with the top guys. And he does, he's there for a reason. He's performed consistently for a reason. It's his third Masters final. Reached the final in Canada last year. Reached the final in Miami last year. Won it. That was a crazy run. Sinner, Raonic, and I think 3 top 10 guys. So, including Zverev, I believe, in Miami. So, Hurkacz deserves every bit of where he's at. He'll be 11th in the world if he wins tomorrow's final. He's already back to 13th in the rankings, and people like to underestimate Hurkacz. Will happen again. But shout out Hubie, because no hate for Hubie from my side. And then Ben Shelton. Shelton reached U.S. Open semis. He's proving that he can perform well. Beat Sinner, beat Sakulin, who had a good win earlier this week against Zverev. Destroyed Zverev 6-1, 6-3. That was unexpected because Zverev's been in a good form, but he really beats Zverev in comfortable fashion. And then Shelton beats Sakulin. I was like, okay, Shelton's playing well. And then, yeah, Shelton had a solid win over Sinner, although, of course, Jannik was tired after a crazy Beijing that you might as well call a Masters 1000, to be honest. It almost feels like Beijing and Shanghai forgot which one's the 500, which one's in the 1,000. Because you have 8 guys, 18th seed, 32nd seed, 26th seed, 19th seed, unseeded Marajan. I mean, this is the draw that we got. And it's like, in Beijing, we had Medvedev, Sinner, Alcaraz, and Zverev all in the semis. And that's not to name a lot of other amazing players in that draw. Not to mention the qualifying draw as well. JJ Wolf was a guy in the qualifying of Beijing. And he did well in Shanghai. So anyway, that was a crazy tournament. But yeah, Shelton, looking strong, honestly. Exciting with his array of shots. I feel like they're coming off a bit more consistently. His forehand, how he's hitting through it. So, and his serve is crazy. So, yeah, shout out to Shelton. He's doing well. And then, yeah, Sebi Korda. That was an All-American quarterfinal. I think it was the first All-American quarterfinals at a Masters since 2017. Maybe Sock versus Isner, something of the sort. But that was a crazy match. 12-10 for Shelton in the first set. And then Korda ended up winning the match 8-6, the third set tiebreaker. He led 6-1 before Shelton would come back 8-6. But yeah, I mean, Shelton proving that he can do it again in a big event. And Sebastian Korda has been doing... I mean, he's had losses, he's been a bit on and off, but mostly when he's been healthy, he's been playing well. I mean, Australian Open quarterfinal, tight loss in the quarterfinal there, got a point away from beating Djokovic at Adelaide. Djokovic with a very clutch overhead, actually, to save championship point there before pointing to his head a million times. That was a great match, but I mean, Korda is one of the cleanest ball strikers around, and he'll be around for a while. But it was exciting to see because, like, as I'm going through these players, all these players, they haven't had a lot of these players haven't had a huge run that you could point to, be like, we all know Nicholas Jarry's had a great 2023, but you can't really point to a big tournament where it'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, he made a big run there. You can point to the Chile Open, a title he won. You can point to Geneva. So there are places to point to for Jarry, but it's great to see him do it in 1,000. Dimitrov, there's really no place to point to. Geneva final. So it's great that, okay, this woke everybody up. Dimitrov is really in standard form, let alone with that Alcaraz win. Marajan, following up the Alcaraz win. Korda, Humbert. These are players that you're excited about, and Rublev and Hurkacz are two of the more underrated guys around. But yeah, Rublev versus Hurkacz, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I reckon Rublev I have as the favorite because Rublev's just playing crazy. I mean, Dimitrov was playing well, and he managed to beat Grigor pretty comfortably in the second set. I felt like Dimitrov kind of mentally fell out of it in the second set, but clutched through a first set. Tiebreaker, very close. Last point, absolutely clutch on the set point. Long rally, kind of out-tired Dimitrov. And Rublev's also won the last two encounters against Hurkacz. They're 2-2 and they're head-to-head. Last time Hurkacz beat him was in that Miami tournament that Hurkacz won. It was in the semifinals that Hurkacz beat Rublev before beating Sinner in the final to take his first 1,000. But Hurkacz beat him in Miami 6-3, 6-4 in straight sets. That was 2 years ago, their first match in Rome on the clay courts. He actually won Hurkacz, which is surprising, but it was 2020. Still surprising. But yeah, Rublev's won the last couple times they played, and I reckon that Rublev is a pretty decent favorite, to be honest. But I think Hurkacz will beat Korda 6-3, 6-4. Hurkacz is playing great, and I think he'll be excited by the opportunity to lift another Masters, but Rublev's already won a Masters this year, and I don't know, I mean, if Rublev's able to get it to Hurkacz's forehand and hit it super big to the forehand on the fast courts of Shanghai, I mean, Miami plays slower than Shanghai, I reckon that Rublev will have like his chances, and I don't know, Rublev was also coming to net a bit against Dimitrov, using a little bit of variety, which is always encouraging with Andre, and just in general, I think he's playing good, and Hurkacz has been clutch this week, but this year there were times where I've questioned Hurkacz's clutchness. I never questioned Rublev's. I think he's one of the more clutch and a great competitor, and I don't know. I kind of like Rublev in the final, but I don't think that this is the last Masters final that we'll see either player in. That's my kind of prediction with this. I think not to underestimate either guy, and I think that either guy are proving time and time again that they're two big hitters not to count out on the court. Yeah, those were some of my thoughts on Shanghai a bit. I still feel like Alcaraz isn't really quite where he wants to be, but Dimitrov did play crazy. I feel like it's worth it to mention that this is the second year in a row where Alcaraz has really kind of slowed down towards the end of the season, and that's a worry to me. I think that maybe a bit of a hot take. Medvedev played one of the best performances of the season, if not the best. There's actually an argument it was the best. It was clearly, to me, the most focused performance of the tennis season. Completely focused performance at the U.S. Open semifinals against Alcaraz. Medvedev was absolutely redlining, playing crazy passing shots, and just serving amazing, especially second, third, fourth sets, and just playing really, really high level, high IQ tennis versus Alcaraz. But I will say that I felt like even at the U.S. Open, Alcaraz was already starting to slow down, which we didn't see in 2022, but I felt like this was the case in 2023. He did play more matches coming into the U.S. Open this year than he did last year by a bit of a margin as well. I feel like this is the second year in a row where Alcaraz slowed down. And it's not unusual. I mean, Alcaraz plays with an incredibly physical game style, and he has played so much tennis this year, and he's just an all-out sprint, trying every single point, every single match, always giving 100%. So it's not completely unusual, but that's how I see it. I just call it how I see it, and I think Alcaraz has slowed down pretty tremendously towards the end of last year, particularly, where he lost a couple times to Auger-Aliassime, losing on the indoors, lost to Goffin, and was getting injured. And Had to retire against Runa, didn't play the ATP finals. I feel like maybe not quite at that point. The injury, I feel like he's grown stronger physically, not getting as injured as often as he was last year, where he did get injured a couple times. Maybe they were just freak injuries or whatever, but I feel like this year the same kind of thing has happened where he has slowed down. I feel like it's worth it to note. Even though Dimitrov played well, Medvedev played well, I just still feel like these aren't losses Alcaraz wants to have. It's not a knock against Alcaraz to say like Alcaraz isn't still deserving of where he is, or that he has so much time to, he's still young, he's always clearly going to face obstacles, he's not going to win every match, every tournament. But it is worth it to point out the kind of weaknesses or weak points of Alcaraz, and I feel like, to me, it's worth it to point out that this is the second year in a row where he has tremendously slowed down towards the end of the season, even though we are going to faster hard courts, which might not be a strong suit. And then, what else? Tsitsipas with a loss to Humbert, but I actually felt like he played better. He'll have I feel like his chances this next week in, he's playing a tournament in Antwerp, which is a 250, so he'll have chances to get wins and get some confidence going. But yeah, those are a few things going on. Nothing else here. Auger-Aliassime still losing. He lost against Fucsovics. Fucsovics has been on a run, but listen, Auger-Aliassime, he's still what is Auger-Aliassime currently in the live rankings? And yeah, a lot of the points that Auger-Aliassime is kind of holding on to is because of the indoor swing. He's currently 17th in the live rankings. But listen, he went on a 16-match win streak, 3 titles in a row. Last year, including, I believe, a quarterfinals in Paris, or semifinals. Maybe it was round 16, but he lost to Runa, I believe, there. I believe it was quarters or semis, but anyway, Auger-Aliassime has points to defend. I'm hoping that Felix can bring it back. But yeah, like I said, Tsitsipas, another guy who's struggling at the moment, but he'll be playing in Antwerp. I want to go over some upcoming ATP tournaments, some of the draws. And then I'll go over some of the women's tournaments that happened this week quickly, and then I'll end off. But yeah, just some stuff going on in the tennis world. I especially wanted to speak on Shanghai. But yeah, Antwerp, Tokyo, and Stockholm. Those are some of the tournaments going on. So in Antwerp, you have Struff as the 2nd seed, actually. Bublik is the 3rd seed. Arthur Fils is the 4th seed, so clearly not the highest ranked ATP tournament around, but those are still, I mean, Fils and Struff are players who can play very well at their best, Bublik as well. Dominic Thiem is also in this tournament. Dominic Stricker, who beat Tsitsipas at the US Open, they could play in Tsitsipas's first match this tournament if he beats Van de Zandschulp. Carbais Baena, who especially loves the clay, he's in this tournament, and so is good old Richie Gasquet, still sticking around, 600 ATP wins, and has been around on the tour for over 20 years, so shout out Richie Gasquet. But yeah, fellow one-hander Tsitsipas, he's the number 1 seed. Yeah, I'm curious how this tournament is going to go. Like I said, Tsitsipas did look better in Shanghai, to be honest. He looked like he was hitting better, hitting through that backhand better, playing a little bit more aggressively against Humbert, although I guess he was forced to, against the aggressive kind of crazy style that Humbert brings, but still, 7-5 in the 3rd set, and Humbert was really playing crazy, so let's see. I feel like this is a good chance for Tsitsipas. I reckon if he plays Stricker again, I like his chances to come through it. Yeah, you never know. And Arthur Fils is another guy that I'd have my eye on, especially. But Struff was playing crazy until he got injured in the grass, so I'm excited to see how this tournament goes. Tsitsipas the favorite, but it's hard to say if he's going to win a title. I don't know. Tsitsipas hasn't won a title since Halle last year, I'd like to say. Was it Halle? One of the grass court tournaments. Maybe it was Mallorca or Stuttgart, but Tsitsipas won a grass court tournament. Real quick, I can find that real quick. Yeah, Tsitsipas in Mallorca, not in Halle. 250, not a 500, but still. But yeah, that's kind of what's going on there. Gonna be interesting how guys like Fils, Struff, who comes through that team, and Tsitsipas the favorite, but kind of unpredictable, so that's pretty interesting. In Tokyo, Fritz has won in Tokyo before. He's defending. Great draw, a lot of Americans playing. as well. You have Paul playing Tiafoe. You have Fritz. You also have guys like Demonor Kashanov. You have OG Aliassime, Rude. Rude plays against Watanuki, who's one of my personal favorites. Brings a crazy style of play. Watanuki can be dangerous. Karatsev's in here. Zhang is in here. Hurkacz is in here, somehow unseeded, which is which shows you how high level this tournament is. Even before Shanghai, I think Hurkacz was 17th in the world, so unbelievable, to be honest. Schwartzman is in here. He played crazy in Shanghai. One of my favorite results of Shanghai was him really picking up his level. And I'm always happy to see Fritz win, but I was just happy to see Schwartzman finally get something good going on his side. Schwartzman and Fritz, both two of my favorites, but Schwartzman's been one of my favorites for a while, and he's one of the best talents on the tour. Crazy angles they can get, and amazing kind of lateral movement as well from Schwartzman. Great athlete. OG Aliassime, he plays Fukic in the first round. I reckon it's going to be tough for OG Aliassime, but we'll see. That's kind of what Tokyo's looking like. Fritz plays Nori, who's also unseeded. Nori's not in any form, but that could be dangerous. Fritz versus Nori. Let me tell you what, Fritz and Nori have one of the craziest head-to-heads on the tour. I followed this for a while. They've met each other in like different exhibitions, Hotman Cup, whatever. Like I don't know. They've met in different things, but that's neither here nor there. They in real ATP, just real ATP, they are 6-6 in their head-to-head. They've played 12 times on the tour, and they actually haven't played since United Cup. I'm looking at now, so this it kind of had a pause for a bit, but up until United Cup. Earlier this year, they were 6-6 in their head-to-head. Their first match was in 2019. So from 2019 to the very, very start of 2023, basically 2019 to 2022, because United Cup actually started late 2022. From 2019 to 2022, they played 12 times. Both guys really started being like where they could meet in later rounds in like 2021 at most. Fritz mainly at the start of 2022. These are not really top players or consistently top players for the last 4 years straight. And they've met 12 times on the tour. I mean, they've met in 2 semifinals, but most of these are round robins, round 16s, round of 32. Really unusual for 2 players like this to meet like this. And also have super close and great tight matches. I mean, like I said, it's tied in their head-to-head. In some ways, they're very comparable, actually. They've kind of consistently been 8-14 in the world. About Fritz climbed up a bit higher for, I think, a month or so at the start of this year when he won in Florida, I believe, in Delray Beach. But still, I mean, they both are the last 2 Indian Welsh champions before this year, 2021, 2022. Surprising Indian Welsh champions. Very different play styles in almost every way. Fritz, much more power in his game, but still, I mean, really crazy that they played so many times. Anyway, that's the first round in Tokyo. Demonor, somebody to watch. He's been playing well. And then Stockholm, you have a guy like Runa. You have Monfils. You have Manarino, Fokina, Wawrinka, Eubanks. It's just interesting. It's just a weird kind of, I don't know. JJ Wolf's in here. Baez. Yeah, I really have no idea what to expect from this tournament. Manarino is in good form, but even though he lost 6-3, 6-0 to Rublev, he's in good form. Runa will want to pick up points to really save his spot in the ATP race to Turin. I'll tell you what. ATP race to Turin, Runa is 8th in the race, and he is only about 100 points. That's a bit of an exaggeration. About 150 points ahead of Fritz at 9th. And listen, there are really good players on his tail. Hurkacz, Demonor, Paul, Ruud, Fritz, Kachanov as well, although Kachanov might be too far behind at this point, but still. Hurkacz, Demonor, Paul, Ruud, Fritz, those are all players who are going to be looking to take over Runa's spot in the race. If not Tsitsipas, Zverev as well. Rublev is a lock already, pretty much. Not technically, but pretty much. He's well over 600 points ahead of the next guy. And he's been the 5th best player this year for sure. Whether he wins in Shanghai or not. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Fritz, Rude, both aren't really in form. Demonor's kind of lost a little bit of his steam. Same thing with Paul, to be honest, although both guys are still looking dangerous. Herkach is looking really good at the moment. Obviously, Shanghai final, but he's further back in the race, so it's going to be hard for him to climb up. Not impossible, but hard. It's going to be really interesting to see who gets to Turin and if Rune keeps his spot. And even if Rune doesn't, some of the other guys can pull out. Alcaraz pulled out of the ATP finals, so did Nadal last year, so people can always pull it out. But yeah, basically Antwerp and Stockholm are interesting because you just never know, kind of unpredictable tournaments. Unpredictability factor, and then Tokyo is just so high level. Like I said, Nori, Herkach both aren't seeded, and that just tells the whole story. A lot of high-ranked players in the tournament. But it is a little bit of a crime that at this point in time, Felix Auger-Aliassime is seeded for Tokyo and Herkach isn't. That seems like a little bit of a crime at this moment. Although I think in the future, FA will find the game again, but right now, it's not there. So yeah, those are a few things, and then I'll think if there's something else I want to talk about. Probably. I like rattling on. I'll go over some of the women's tournaments that happened this week, and then maybe something or another if I want to talk about something, but to kind of round off the podcast. And by the way, don't forget to like the video if you're enjoying it. That helps the channel a lot, so I'd really appreciate it if you like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. Ring the notification bell to get more stuff. And yeah, share this podcast around. From Lance Arenas podcast, it's only starting up, but I'll be here. And this channel in general, Tennis Commentary Booth, hopefully talking about stuff in tennis that I'm interested by, that I think is either cool or fun or important to talk about, but or just interesting. But yeah, hope you guys are enjoying it. And yeah, let me get to some of these WTA tournaments. And as for the women's tournaments, there was a tournament going on in Seoul in Korea. There's a tournament going on in Guangzhou in China. Tournament going on in China and Hong Kong. There's also a 125 going on in France. So those are some of the things going on. There was a bunch of women's tournaments going on. I mean, I heard some people saying that Shanghai was very long, and I tend to agree. I don't love the 1.5 week format, to be honest, although it's a very complex pros and cons. That I can make a whole nother separate video on that, so you'd have to weigh everything. But I was enjoying Shanghai so much because Shanghai before it got kind of swept away in everything 2020 to 2022. It was my favorite Masters tournament at one point when I was younger. Even though it doesn't really fit my time zone at all. I love the crowds there. I love the atmosphere. I love the faster courts of Shanghai, just the way the courts look. I always loved everything that Shanghai brings to tennis. Always felt fresh and unique. And I always say fast courts makes for really kind of really interesting improvisational, creative shot making where players have to adapt and really play some great shots and really hard hitting shots to adapt to the faster courts. Players coming to net, volleys, just very skillful kind of shots. So I always love that about Shanghai. It's not like indoors where a lot of it is like big serves and aces kind of ruling the day. It's still there's some midway point. So it's great. But yeah, anyway, Shanghai was fun, but I heard some people saying, listen, can we move on to other tournaments? Well, I want to say there are other tournaments going on. There's three or four women's tournaments going on. There's also challengers, so there's stuff for me to be excited by. Yeah, some of these women's tournaments that have gone on. Well, first of all, I can talk about Hong Kong. So it was really a lot of younger players kind of ruling the day in Hong Kong. It was really interesting. I mean, a lot of players born after 2001, younger than me. I was born in 2000. I'm 22, and it's like that's really crazy that so many of these players are. I don't know. It was cool to see some young blood in there. Leylah Fernandez, who got fame by getting to the U.S. Open final, beating 3 top 5 players. Very talented, great, fearless, passionate kind of mentality in the game. Very crafty, always fighting. and always bring the crowd into it. Great personality. Fernandez getting it done. She's one of my favorites. And then also, what else you have? Linda Frubertova, Mira Andreeva, Korneva. Listen, first time I saw Mira Andreeva play, it was actually in the girls' finals of the Australian Open, and I thought it was amazing from both players. It was one of the more impressive junior finals that I saw, and even before I didn't know that Mira Andreeva would have a breakout season on the main tour, not the junior circuit, on the main tour. But I was like, wow, that's amazing. Mira Andreeva lost that match. Guess who she lost to? Korneva. Korneva had a good run here in this tournament. She lost to another young player, Frubertova. But yeah, I think I've said before, but in that match, I've never seen a player so distraught losing a match. Like, Mira Andreeva was bawling into her towel, like crying into her towel for like 50 minutes straight, just looking absolutely out of it, just looking at her box and just looking so depressed. Two 15-year-old Russian players playing that match. I was like, wow. It looks like she wants to never play tennis again. It's like she's either never going to play again, or she's just going to like completely just decide, okay, you know what, I'm going to like never lose a match again. I'm going to become one of the greatest ever. I don't know if Mira Andreeva is going to do that, but she's looking mighty good this year. The very quick kind of rise in the rankings. Right after, to start the season, she had like a 16-match win streak. Anyway, in her own way, Andreeva is doing big things. Round 16 at Wimbledon, I'd like to say, and that's not even her best surface. Her best surface is probably clay courts, you would guess at this moment. But yeah, a lot of young players doing well. Wang as well is another young player who's doing well in this draw. But it ends up that Leylah Fernandez, and Siniakova of doubles fame, she does well in doubles with Krejcikova. She's, and currently the woman doubles world #1, and she's climbing up to be one of the best women's doubles players ever, at least in terms of weeks at #1. Maybe not quite pretty far below the top of the top, but I think she's climbing to be 6th or 7th ever. But anyway, Siniakova can also play singles pretty well at her best, and she's in the final against Leylah Fernandez, who is having a great run, beat Blinkova in the semifinals. Beat Andreeva earlier in the tournament, beat Azarenka in the first round, although Azarenka had to retire. But Fernandez did win the second set, tied up before Azarenka called it. But yeah, Fernandez having a good run this tournament, and she's one of these players that she gets so close against a lot of these players, and I feel like, I don't know, she's talented. I'm very high on her and her potential at her best to have some more good runs down the road. But I was happy to see Fernandez doing well, and yeah, young blood kind of appearing, doing well. And listen, Linda Frubertova was the player who did well in this tournament, but I think her sister might be more exciting than, or might be just as exciting, if not more exciting than Linda. I mean, Brenda Frubertova is insane. What she's done on the challengers for the women's sport is crazy. For those smaller tournaments. So, yeah, there's a lot of young players doing well, and Goff just won the U.S. Open. So that's something that happened as well. And then what else? This tournament in Korea has been pretty interesting, because Pegula is in the final, but the semifinal on the other side was contested between two players outside of the world's top 100. This is a WTA 250, and Yuan beat Boskova, the 4th seed. We all know Boskova. And then she played against Bektis, an American, in the next round. How did Bektis get here? Well, let me go through her draw. Bektis beat Zhang, who beat Sophia Kenin, who's been doing really well lately, about 30th in the rankings. And some player who I've barely heard of, but I mean, shout out to her, outside the world's top 500 from South Korea. I mean, shout out. But Ostapenko lost her in the 3rd set tiebreaker, hitting a lot of errors in that match. And then Burrell beat Back, and then Bektis beat Burrell. So that's kind of how it happened. So they got two players outside the world's top 100. A lot of players losing. Alexandrova lost to Wickmeyer. And then Wickmeyer would go on to lose to Pegula in the semifinals. on the other side. But yeah, a lot of players losing, and then that's not even going over what are the other seeds here. Roos also had to retire. This is the end of the season. A lot of players retiring. She's the 7th seed. Alicia Parks lost to Kudermetova. Katie Bolter lost in the first round. She was the 8th seed. I mean, a lot of seeds going down. So anyway, and like I said, Ostapenko with that bad loss. So it's basically Pegula and the rest of the draw just falling apart, or seeds stepping up, however you want to see it. And then in Guangzhou tournament in China, this is the last WTA 250 and probably the most like in-your-face, highest level. You have Zhang and Krejcikova. I still don't know how Zhang is outside the top 20. She's outside the top 20 of the live rankings. The way she plays at her peak, her talent levels, I mean, come on. She's been playing crazy recently. She won a title, I think, a couple months ago. So I hope Zhang keeps rising up. But she's in the final against Krejcikova. Paolini beat Caroline Garcia in this tournament, who's been doing well. But that was Garcia and Paolini played earlier this year. I watched that match in full earlier this year on the indoors, and I felt like Paolini played really well against Garcia, so I wasn't fully surprised. This was a match that I had my eye on. But and Paolini, at her best, has played really well this season. Garcia is gonna like it when it gets to more of the like indoor circuit, the fastest of the fast courts, because that's where she thrives, like she did at the WTA finals. But still, it's Paolini with a good win over Garcia. Samsonova lost to Siegmund. Zhang beat Zachary. Like I said, Zhang is she deserves to be higher in the rankings. And then, Jabeur had to withdraw from the tournament. Kasatkina, Krejcikova, these were some other players in the tournament. And, then going to the late rounds here. Krejcikova doing better lately. She's kind of not been super vocal and being like, I'm one of the big four. She's quieted up a bit. And she'd have to say big five at this point, I'd say, with Goff. But at least big four. But she's quieted up a bit, and her results have really kind of bettered recently. Because actually Paolini in the semis lost to Zhang 6-2, 6-3, and Krejcikova 6-3, 6-0 over Kasatkina. Tomorrow's finals day. Today's Saturday. Sunday's usually finals day. Krejcikova and Zhang. We'll see how that finishes off. Have they played against each other? I feel like I remember that matchup happening. I don't remember where. Let me look up the Krejcikova Zhang head-to-head. Here, Krejcikova versus Zhang. Yeah, okay, they never played in a tour level event. They've never played in a tour level event. That should be interesting. It should be a good match. Should be a good match. Krejcikova ever so solid. Zhang a little bit more fire and ice, just going for it. That should be a good one. And then, like I said, there's also 125 in France. That went down as well. Just a bit of a tournament there. Elise Cornet was in this tournament. Minin, Golubic, Erica Andreeva. Andreeva has a sister, for anybody who doesn't know Erica Andreeva. She's also on the women's tour. She's in the final of that one. That's a 125. But yeah, anyway, those are a few of the women's tournaments going on. Pegula versus Yuan. Pegula, a massive favorite in that one. But Yuan played well in the semi. Some big hitting shots from both sides. We'll see, but Pegula is the big favorite. Absolutely. Krejcikova versus Zhang should be interesting. And then, Fernandez taking on Siniakova, the doubles master. And Fernandez, good to see her have a good run. This was her first WTA semifinal since Monterrey last year, where she beat Osorio in an absolute epic between two crafty young players, saving 5 match points in a really dramatic contest in the final there, 5 championship points. Her first semifinal since that, her first final since that. And hopefully we see Layla more on the winning side, because she's one of these players that absolutely deserves to be higher than 60 outside the top 60, which she started out this week. She deserves to be higher than that. Whether you believe Fernandez, a future Fernandez where she wins a major, or if she wins a Masters, or she is in the top 10, top 20. Even if you don't believe that, I think we would all agree that she deserves to be higher than top 60 in the world. Her talent levels, her passion and mentality that she brings to the sport, she's proven that I think she's a bit higher than that. But yeah, those are a few things going on this week, and I'm thinking if there's something else I want to touch upon. If there is, I can probably make a video. separate video about it or talk about it in the next podcast. So yeah, this has been from Lawrence to Arenas Tennis Podcast. I'll do more podcasts talking about stuff. Like I said, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This has been the Tennis Commentary Booth with Anthony Hirsch. And don't forget, check out Quality Shot Tennis as well. I have a podcast on there called Tennis 360, where I'm the co-host with another tennis analyst called Eliza Westcott, named Eliza Westcott, and she's great as well. We do a podcast on there. Make sure to check that out. I do live streams on that channel as well. So make sure to check out Quality Shot Tennis, and don't forget to subscribe as well on here, Tennis Commentary Booth with Anthony Hirsch. You can also follow me on social media, Tennis Commentary Booth on Instagram, Commentary Booth on Twitter, and yeah, all of that type of stuff. And yeah, finals are tomorrow. Hurkacz taking on Rublev, and Pegula, Yuan, all the finals that I mentioned, Krejcikova, Zhang. So it should be exciting. There's been a lot of names coming to the forefront this week that I think really deserve to have their names rise in the rankings a bit. Korda, I mean, Zhang on the women's side, Humbert in this week, Dimitrov, these guys, Jari, guys who have done well week to week but haven't really had a big run. That's where I feel like a lot of tournaments this week have really gotten a lot of names really high up. I think that's great to see. And yeah, I think that it will be exciting to see how the finals play out. All right, this has been from Lawrence to Arenas Tennis Podcast. I'll see you guys at the next one.